Recently, the serial killer in Haicheng has appeared again. The police found the body of a fourth young girl in a bridge opening. As I came across this short video, I happened to turn into a dark alley. A strange chill ran down my spine. I held my breath and quickened my pace. However, in the deathly silent alley, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from behind me. My heart skipped a beat, and the hair on my body stood on end. In the next second, I turned and ran. Hey, want to run? You can't escape. That eerie voice seemed to come from the depths of hell, accompanied by the dull sound of something, perhaps an axe, slowly dragging on the ground. My mind went blank, but I quickly came to my senses. While running, I fumbled for my phone and dialed the emergency number. But in my panic, I dialed 1, the number of my emergency contact. The call connected, and Yunqi's voice came through. Husband. But before I could speak, Yunqi's suppressed voice, filled with anger, said, Sure, Wei Wei. What are you up to in the middle of the night? My nose stung and I was trembling with fear. I couldn't help but cry out. Husband. This time it's real. I've encountered the serial killer. He's chasing me. Help. Yunqi's voice was filled with deep disappointment. Sure, Wei Wei, you're lying again. When will you ever grow up and stop being so willful? Before I could say anything, he coldly interrupted me. Besides, you've done so many terrible things. Even if someone really wants to kill you, they're just doing what's right. I stumbled and nearly fell to the ground. Tears blurred my vision. Yes, 3 years ago Yunqi was forced to marry me, and since then he's hated me to the core. No matter how nice I was to him or how much I clung to him, he simply wouldn't reciprocate. In fact, he became even more annoyed with me and hated me even more. Hearing the dull sound of the axe getting closer, I was terrified. Please, this is the last time, believe me. I didn't want to die. And I couldn't die. My trembling hand stroked my stomach. Inside there was a little life just 2 months along. But Yunqi had lost his patience and didn't want to hear my explanation. He said angrily, Enough. Sure, Wei Wei. If you want to die, then go ahead and die. In a panic, I blurted out, Yunqi, I'm... At that moment, a gentle voice came from the other end of the line. Yunqi, who is it? I stumbled again. By Siren. Yunqi's first love and also my college best friend. By Siren yawned, her voice still sweet and pleasant. Is it Wei Wei? Yunqi, suppressing his burning anger, said softly to By Siren. Why are you awake? You have to get up early tomorrow, go back to sleep. Did something happen to her again? Go check on her. By Siren said with concern. However, hearing the word again in her words, Yunqi was reminded of all the times I had lied to him before. Even if he had a sliver of doubt, it vanished at this moment. Suppressing his anger, he still spoke softly to By Siren. Don't worry about her. Even if something really happened, she deserves it. With that, he ruthlessly hung up the phone. However, because of my stumble earlier, I had fallen to the ground. I heard the dull sound of the axe approaching from behind, but I no longer had the strength to run. I didn't want to die originally, but when I heard the words, she deserves it. A sharp pain surged from my heart, instantly spreading throughout my body with my blood. At that moment, I was in a daze and I finally woke up. I knew he disliked me, but I never knew he hated me so much. To divorce me, to completely get rid of me, he wished I would really die. But what did I do wrong? He's my husband, I just wanted to be a good wife. Why? Why treat me like this? I could feel a gust of wind behind me, and a sharp object slammed into the back of my head, again and again. But even lying in a pool of blood, I didn't feel any pain. All I could think about was Yunqi and By Siren lying in bed together at this moment. As my skull was being smashed by the axe, he was reaching out to gently embrace her. It started to rain heavily. The rain washed the blood on the ground, causing it to flow everywhere. I watched as the killer dug a hole in the torrential rain, about to bury me alive. He finished digging the hole, and his thin figure walked towards me step by step. The pregnancy test report that I had been clutching tightly in my hand fluttered to the muddy ground. Yunqi, why wouldn't you believe me? Why, after 3 years of marriage, could I still not warm your cold heart? On the verge of death, my eyes widened, and only at this moment did I finally feel the heart-wrenching pain. I lost. I lost completely. The Sure family and the Lee family were old friends, we were childhood sweethearts, I thought we could be together forever. But Yunqi was right. I brought this upon myself. I was wrong. I tried to force a smile, but it was filled with sorrow. In that instant, I felt completely relieved. Yunqi, if my death can atone for all the harm I've caused you, then I'm willing to die. 3 years, I'm so tired. From now on, I'll let you go and I'll let myself go. As my remaining consciousness gradually faded, I couldn't hold on any longer, and I slowly closed my eyes. I'm dead. I thought that after death, one either goes to hell or vanishes into thin air. But here I am, a lingering spirit. At this moment, a wisp of my soul is in By Siren's apartment, witnessing them together. I suddenly realized perhaps my obsession with Li Yunqi in my previous life was too deep. Even after death, I didn't immediately reincarnate but became a wandering ghost, lingering in the mortal realm to continue haunting him. Fortunately, Li Yunqi can't see me. Otherwise, even as a ghost, he would still berate me mercilessly. But now By Siren suddenly mentions me. Yunqi, was that Wei Wei who called last night? Is it really okay not to answer? What if this time it's real? I sigh inwardly and shake my head. Why bring me up at a time like this? Isn't it a mood killer? Sure enough, Li Yunqi's expression changes, his gentle smile vanishing instantly. He says coldly, "You know how she is. She's a habitual liar, completely shameless, all to get me." Even as a wisp of a soul, I feel a sharp stabbing pain in my heart. But Yunqi, this time I didn't lie, it's real. But he can't hear me. By Siren breathes a sigh of relief. That's good then. Li Yunqi holds her hand, his doting gaze seeming to melt. If only she were half as sensible as you. She's been spoiled since childhood, increasingly lacking in upbringing. Don't let her upset you. I clench my fists tightly. As always, he manages to hit my sore spot with just one sentence. My father is the president of the Sure Group and my mother is the president's wife, but she has her own career as an archaeologist. My parents divorced when I was 2. My mother went to the imperial capital for work and gave up my custody. My father remarried soon after, leaving me behind to move into his new home with my stepmother and have another daughter. I grew up alone in a huge villa, raised by nannies. So not having the care and companionship of my parents since childhood, lacking fatherly and motherly love is my deepest pain. But with a single sentence, Li Yunqi tears open the scar in my heart, letting it bleed profusely, causing unbearable pain. Li Yunqi, having turned his head, didn't see By Siren's expression, but I saw it clearly. Her beautiful eyes welled up with intense jealousy. But she says softly, "She's just lucky, born into a wealthy family. Unlike me." I furrow my brows. I don't know why, but By Siren feels a bit off at this moment. Different from the girl I knew in college. By Siren's family is the complete opposite of mine. Her parents are ordinary workers, and she has a younger brother and sister. In college, she was so poor that she couldn't afford tuition or even food. When I found out, I paid her tuition and added money to her meal card. From then on, we became best friends. She was also very hardworking, always getting the top grades in every exam. Whenever I failed an exam, I'd treat her to a big meal, feeling even happier than if I had gotten first place myself. Until we graduated and I married Li Yunqi. And then because of me, Li Yunqi met By Siren. And then I don't know when they got together. Seeing her mood drop, Li Yunqi was about to comfort her, but his phone rang. It was his assistant. He could only tell her to rest well and rushed out. I was forced to follow Li Yunqi out. The assistant was already waiting outside with the car. As the assistant opened the car door, Li Yunqi's tall, imposing figure suddenly paused. The assistant asked, puzzled, "Mr. Li?" I see a layer of gloom clouding Li Yunqi's already stern face. I can't help but shiver. Although I've never seen what the devil looks like, I imagine he's probably similar to Li Yunqi. Although he's only the crown prince of the Li Group and has been vice president for less than 5 years, in his first year, the Li Group faced an operational crisis and was on the verge of bankruptcy. It was Li Yunqi who single-handedly turned the tide. Not only did he save the Li Group, but he also made it the top corporation in Haiqing overnight. So now, although the president of the Li Group is still Li Yunqi's father, it's Li Yunqi who's actually in control. This man, who can manipulate the fate of Haiqing with a flick of his wrist, is ruthless and decisive, and everyone who knows him is terrified of him. Li Yunqi said gravely, "Go and investigate." But then he abruptly stopped. Never mind. He suddenly got into the car. My heart skipped a beat. Investigate what? Could it be to check if what I said last night was true? This absurd thought popped into my head, and I immediately shook my head like a rattle, laughing uncontrollably, although it looked more like crying. I must be crazy. Li Yunqi is the person in this world who most wants me to die. Even if he's worried, it's only because he's worried that I'm not dead. Yunqi, don't worry, I'm already dead. I won't bother you anymore, I won't make you upset anymore. In the Li family villa, my soul huddled in the corner of the study, silently watching Li Yunqi still engrossed in his work. It had been days, but Li Yunqi had not thought of me at all. I suddenly realized that after a while I would probably be forgotten by this world. Because my husband wished I would disappear from this world completely, and my father had a new family. My mother was also busy with her work. They probably had forgotten they ever had a daughter. It turned out that in my short life no one had ever loved me. I hugged myself tighter, as if this could bring a sliver of warmth to my freezing body. Li Yunqi. Suddenly, a middle-aged woman's voice rang out sharply. Li Yunqi looked up suddenly, staring in confusion at the uninvited guest. I also looked up, and was stunned. How could it be her? You are, Li Yunqi said in a deep voice. I heard my daughter has been missing for 3 days. Where did she go? The middle-aged woman asked angrily. Yes, she was my mother, Su Yutong, whom I had only met a few times since I was a child. I never dreamed that the first person to discover my disappearance would be her, who was thousands of miles away. What was going on? My mouth fell open, my whole body stiffened, and I stared at her in shock. Yunqi, realizing she was his mother-in-law, was also momentarily stunned, but he quickly recovered, leaned back on the sofa and sneered. Why didn't you abandon her back then? Why are you so nervous now? My eyes quickly blurred with tears. Yes, she abandoned me back then. Why? I didn't. The muscles on Su Yutong's face twitched, her gaze momentarily huanthan, and her tone lowered involuntarily. Although I divorced her father back then, and due to work reasons I had to give up her custody and didn't have time to be with her, I know everything about her since she was a child. She is my daughter, a piece of flesh that fell from my body. How could I not love her? The last sentence she almost said with red eyes and a trembling voice. I took a sharp breath, the blood in my body rushed to my head, and my eyes were also blurred by the tears that were flowing out crazily. Su Yutong continued sobbing. Her first day of kindergarten. Her first day of elementary school. When a boy bullied her, I immediately flew back to Haicheng and found the boy's parents to warn them. Also, she has had a crush on you since she was a child. Later, when you got married, you became her only family in this world. Now she has been missing for 3 days. How can you ignore it? After she finished speaking, I was already in tears. My heart felt like a volcano erupting. Bursts of hot currents surged through my blood to my whole body. Mom! So my mother never abandoned me. So she has always been silently watching over me. So she did so much for me, but I knew nothing about it. Enough. I'm not interested in your deep mother-daughter bond. Yunqi's brows furrowed even tighter. He lowered his head and continued to look at the proposal impatiently, saying, She's a grown woman, what could happen to her? She's probably just out messing around with her friends. She'll come back in a couple of days when she's had enough fun. Su Yutong said anxiously. But I found out that her last phone call was made to you in the middle of the night. She has been missing since then. What did she say to you? My heart started pounding uncontrollably. Because if Yunqi told Su Yutong the truth of my murder would definitely be found out. But Yunqi's face only darkened. A trace of gloom flashed in his dark eyes, and he said in a deep voice. She didn't say anything. All right, I have things to do. Then his eyes showed undisguised annoyance. She's a grown woman still acting so childishly. Su Yutong wanted to say something but hesitated, probably thinking of how I had designed to force Yunqi to marry me. Those things that were indeed not very honorable. Since you won't do anything, I will. I must find my daughter. Su Yutong stormed off in anger. And my soul still stood stiffly in front of Yunqi, as if I had fallen into an ice cellar, unable to recover for a long time. Why? Why did he lie? If he had just told Su Yutong the truth, Su Yutong would have called the police, and the police could have found my body immediately. Why? My eyes were bloodshot and I desperately wanted to rush to him and ask him why. But he couldn't see me and he couldn't hear my voice. He went back to burying himself in his work. But he didn't know that because of his momentary concealment, I would end up with a tragic ending of not even having a complete corpse. And I also greatly underestimated the psychopathic nature of the murderer. In the dead of night, in Yunqi's bedroom, I floated by the bed, quietly watching his sleeping face. He slept so soundly, breathing evenly. My heart ached with bitterness. I was missing my life or death unknown, yet he didn't seem to care at all, sleeping so peacefully. I was suddenly glad that I was dead, otherwise I would never have seen this scene. And at this moment I truly let go and my heart died. Suddenly I felt a loss of footing, and I plunged into an abyss. Intense pain followed, as if millions of ants were gnawing at my bones, so painful that I couldn't help but howl. Wait. I forced my eyes open despite the pain, but Yunqi was gone. The scene changed and I was in a desolate wilderness, with a cold wind whistling and the occasional eerie cries of crows, the air filled with the smell of rotting leaves. Isn't this the place where I was murdered? What's going on? Wasn't I buried? But at this moment my consciousness was so clear. I suddenly realized I wasn't dead yet. I still had a breath left. It turned out that the murderer had buried me near a mound of earth, and it had been raining heavily these past few days, washing away the mound, allowing me to see the light of day again and breathe. I was ecstatic. I wasn't dead. As long as someone found me, I could be saved. Sure enough, I heard faint footsteps. I was finally going to be saved. But when the person stood before me, squatted down and our eyes met, I shuddered violently, my mind going blank. How could it be him? He was the same as that day, wearing a large hoodie. He muttered. Still not dead. Such a perfect body, wouldn't it be more perfect as a human specimen? No. I widened my eyes in terror. No. but I could only watch helplessly as he dug my body out of the mound and put it into a large suitcase. He was very thin, obviously malnourished from childhood, and he was disabled with his left leg shorter. It took him a great deal of effort to do all this. I was already on my last breath, and after all this I only had half a breath left. I was put into the suitcase, surrounded by darkness, and soon I seemed to be in the city, surrounded by the hustle and bustle of traffic and people, a world away from me. Suddenly my heart jolted, because I heard a familiar voice. "Officer Chan, please, you have to find my daughter. She's been missing for over 40 hours. I'm very worried." It was Su Yutong's sobbing voice. But my first reaction was not emotion but shock. "Officer, could it be? This was the police station? Don't worry, we started the process yesterday when you reported it, and we're checking all the surveillance footage from before your daughter disappeared," Officer Chan said. But then Officer Chan suddenly turned his head, his voice turning this way. "What is it?" A gentle and polite voice beside me said. "Officer, my suitcase is too heavy. Can you help me carry it upstairs?" Officer Chan looked over. Because next to the police station was an old residential building without an elevator. He saw the man's thin body, carrying a large suitcase, and he was disabled, so he didn't think much of it and helped the man carry the suitcase upstairs. Me. Only now did I finally realize how twisted a serial killer could be. I desperately wanted to scream at the crying Su Yutong and Officer Chan. "He's the killer. He's the serial killer. Catch him. Save me." But at this moment I was hanging on by a thread, unable to even move my eyeballs. Until Officer Chan finally carried me to the killer's home. He was panting. "What's in this suitcase? It's so heavy." I was thrilled, because I knew this was my last hope. But the killer still said softly, "Pork. I'm disabled, it's not convenient for me to go out, so I bought a lot at once to freeze." Officer Chen finally became alert. "Pork? Why didn't you use a bag but a suitcase?" My heart was in my throat, but the killer calmly said, "A suitcase can be rolled, it's easier." This explanation was very reasonable, and Officer Chun fell silent. But he still felt something was off. Just then the walkie-talkie suddenly crackled. Team Chen, we have an important lead in the Shi Weiwei disappearance case." Hearing this, Officer Chun quickly hurried downstairs. I was completely devastated, broken. I wanted to scream at him with all my might. "Don't go. I'm here. He's the killer. I'm not dead. Save me." However, I could only watch his back disappear. If Li Yunqi had told Su Yutong the truth in time and Su Yutong had reported it to the police and provided clues, perhaps I could have been found by the police before the murderer returned, and I would still have a chance to live. It was Li Yunqi. It was he who personally strangled my last hope of life. Only then did I realize that it wasn't my soul a few days ago. I wasn't dead yet. That was just my obsession with Li Yunqi. I loved him so much for so many years. My obsession with him was too deep and too strong, so I was always lingering around him. But now I was really dead. My soul was finally free from being forced to follow Li Yunqi, and I could go wherever I wanted. I wandered aimlessly on the bustling street. I was free, but I didn't know where to go. I didn't want to go back to Li Yunqi. I hated him. If the perverted murderer was the real culprit, then Li Yunqi was the accomplice. I hated him to death. Unknowingly, I came to my mother, Su Yutong. Because of crying day and night, Su Yutong's eyes were red and swollen. Seeing her haggard appearance, my heart ached with piercing pain. "I'm sorry, Mom. I can't fulfill my filial duty to you in this life." "Officer Chan, you said my daughter went to see Li Yunqi the night she disappeared?" Su Yutong wiped her tears. Officer Chan put on his hat and said, "Yes. Although we don't know what urgent matter Shi Weiwei had, she went to find Li Yunqi overnight, and she didn't even take the main road but took a shortcut. Yes, that's where I was killed. I went to see Li Yunqi overnight because I couldn't reach him on the phone. I wanted to tell him the good news about my pregnancy as soon as possible, so I took the shortcut. Let's go find Li Yunqi." Although I didn't want to see Li Yunqi again, following Officer Chan and Su Yutong into the vice president's office of the Li Group, and seeing that familiar yet unfamiliar handsome face, I still trembled all over, and my heart was in unbearable pain. Li Yunqi frowned, leaned back in his chair and said impatiently, "Why is it Shi Weiwei again?" I said, "She'll come back when she's done playing outside. Is there a need to make such a fuss?" The last sentence was directed at Su Yutong. He was accusing Su Yutong of bothering him with these trivial matters. Su Yutong's face turned red and then pale. It wasn't because I was really the kind of person Li Yunqi described, but because Li Yunqi was always mature, steady, and resolute. Anyone would be intimidated by him. Even my mother, an academic professor, was no exception. Officer Chan, however, said seriously, "Mr. Li, your wife has been missing for more than 48 hours. We can open a case." Li Yunqi sneered and said casually, "There's no need. Withdraw the case. Don't waste police resources." Su Yutong was so anxious that she started crying again. We can't withdraw. She took a shortcut to find you that night. What happened on the road? I'm scared just thinking about it. Yunqi laughed coldly and said disdainfully. She did it on purpose. Why take a shortcut when there's a main road? She's just creating suspense, making me feel guilty and give in. Mr. Lee, are you sure? Officer Chun asked with some doubt. Yunqi said firmly. I'm sure. Then he sneered sarcastically. She'll do anything to get me. This is just her latest trick. You don't need to investigate anymore. Officer Chun looked awkward. After all, this was their private matter. But judging from his expression, Su Yutong probably believed him. Su Yutong anxiously took a step forward. But Yunqi finally lost his patience. All right. I said she'll be fine. Leave this to me. 3 days, I can make her come back herself. Yunqi's tone suddenly became low, and he said word by word. But I knew him too well. The calmer he was, the angrier he really was. He was angry that I had gone too far this time, alarming so many people, even calling the police, disturbing his work and embarrassing him. It was precisely because of his repeated delays and obstructions that the police were unable to solve the case in time and save my life. Because Yunqi hated me to the extreme, he simply didn't believe that anything had happened to me. In his eyes, I was just a shameless bad person who would stop at nothing to achieve my goals. He wished I would really die. After Officer Chan and Su Yutong left, Yunqi picked up his phone and finally called me for the first time since I disappeared. But there was no answer. He angrily sent me a voice message on WeChat. Shi vai vai. Get back here within 3 days. I'm giving you one last chance. Otherwise, even if you die outside, I won't collect your body. I'll just go to the police station and have you declared deceased. The corners of my mouth curved into a bitter smile. Silently, I thought, you don't need to collect my body because you won't be able to find it at all. I remembered that after I was thoroughly dead, the murderer carefully dug out my internal organs and turned my body into a human specimen. But strangely, I noticed that I was the only human specimen in the room. Isn't he a serial killer? For young women have died at his hands in the past 6 months, so why is my body the only one that interests him so much? However, when the man pried open the corpse's legs, he suddenly froze, his thin back trembling. I looked over and saw that the inner thighs were covered in scars, and it was obvious that each one was made by a sharp knife very deep, almost to the bone. Although they had been stitched up, it was clear that it had been done very roughly. I stared at this scene blankly. That was a deeply etched memory from 6 years ago. But what puzzled me was that I was clearly killed by the murderer, but when he saw the scars on my thighs, he gradually showed anger, the veins on the back of his hand popping out, and he couldn't help but curse. Bastard! Bastard! I suddenly didn't know whether to laugh or cry. For the first time, someone finally felt sorry for me, but it was actually my murderer. In a daze, a cell phone ringtone suddenly woke me up. Yunqi immediately answered upon seeing the caller ID. I don't know what by siren said, but Yunqi suddenly looked nervous, grabbed his coat, and rushed out the door. I involuntarily followed him to By Siren's apartment. Yunqi opened the door, and By Siren eagerly wrapped her arms around his neck, sobbing uncontrollably. Yunqi's brows furrowed with heartache, and he held her tightly. I watched coldly from the side. Yunqi, did you find Weiwei? Where is she? I want to apologize to her. Please ask her not to torment me anymore. I was wrong. By Siren's beautiful face was filled with fear. Yunqi's frown deepened and he said impatiently, why are you apologizing to her? I had another nightmare. About what happened 6 years ago. Weiwei still won't let me go, won't forgive me. By Siren's words dragged my thoughts back to 6 years ago. 6 years ago, I was a freshman in college. The Li family and the Shi family were family friends, and Yunqi a few other friends, and I grew up together. Because Yunqi had always been very steady since he was a child, he had always been the leader of our small group, and I had a crush on him since we were young. When I was a freshman, he was a senior, already a prominent figure in the entire school, not to mention the whole of Haicheng. The women who admired him could line up from the east to the west of the city. I was angry that so many women were competing with me for him. I wanted to be the first to get to him, but even though I was always in front of Yunqi, he was neither hot nor cold to me, and he didn't show any sign of interest in me at all. Just when I was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, a friend from our group came to me and said that Yunqi had crippled someone in a drunk driving accident. He would have to spend 3 years in prison, but if I were to take the blame for him, he would marry me when I got out. I was probably the first idiot in history who was overjoyed to hear that she was going to jail. I agreed without hesitation. As long as I could marry Yunqi, I would be willing to spend 10 or 20 years in prison, let alone 3. So when Yunqi saw me appear in court, he was shocked. He impatiently asked the judge to have me dragged out. But I thought he was going back on his word, so I rushed to plead guilty. Later, I was indeed sentenced to 3 years. And later still, I found out that Yunqi had never said he would marry me. It was all a conspiracy between his mother and our friend. The scars on my thighs were cut one by those female inmates in prison. I also don't understand why they only targeted me for abuse. They said it was because I was the daughter of a wealthy family. They were jealous of me, so they took their anger out on me. After I was released from prison, I was full of joy and expectation that Yunqi would come to pick me up. But the prison gates were empty. On the large screen of a building, the news of Yunqi and Siren's upcoming engagement was being broadcast. My mind went blank instantly. Siren, my best friend. She had nothing to do with Yunqi. How did they end up together? I was unwilling to accept it, and in a moment of heated emotion, I did something that I regret to this day. I went to the Li family alone, found Yunqi's grandfather, and told him everything. Grandpa Li, who had single-handedly built the Li group, had absolute power and authority in the company and the family. He was furious, scolded Yunqi severely, and demanded that he fulfill his promise and marry me. At that time I was still very naive and didn't understand anything, and I really thought Grandpa Li was a man of his word. Now I understand that Siren's family was poor and not a good match for the Li family, while I was the daughter of the Sure group. Therefore, Grandpa Li forced the issue and pressured Yunqi to marry me. I regretted it on my wedding day. I originally thought it would be a grand, once-in-a-lifetime wedding, but it turned into a farce. I was wearing a white wedding dress, happily waiting for him to pick me up. Instead, Siren attempted suicide by cutting her wrists, and he stayed by her side without leaving for a moment. Someone happened to be live-streaming this scene online, and the live stream had hundreds of thousands of viewers. The whole city was watching me become a laughingstock. The comments in the live stream were all one-sided, accusing me of being shameless and stealing someone else's man. Seeing Siren lying in Yunqi's arms crying pitifully, they all said she was so pitiful. But no matter how pitiful she was, I still had to go through with this marriage. Yunqi didn't come to pick me up, so I took a taxi myself wearing my wedding dress to his house and married him. Waking up from my memories, Siren was still crying. Yunqi, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have ruined your wedding. An ominous look flashed in Yunqi's eyes. Why bring her up out of the blue? Don't upset yourself. Siren's eyes were red. But Wei Wei still hasn't forgiven me. I know her disappearance this time is to punish me. I had been wondering why Siren brought up that incident from 6 years ago at this moment, and now I finally understood. Sure enough, Yunqi's face darkened even more. She came to see you? Siren nodded, tears streaming down her face again. She came to see me the day before she disappeared. She said she hated me and would never forgive me. I was so angry that I was shaking all over, and I screamed at her hoarsely. You're lying. I came to see you because next week is our mentor Professor Chen's 60th birthday. After Yunqi and I got married, I never saw Siren again. Although I knew that every night I spent alone, Yunqi was with her. Those women who had even coveted Yunqi were my rivals, and I never showed them any mercy. But towards Siren, I always had reservations. Perhaps it was because I was used to always giving her my best. Or perhaps it was because she was Yunqi's true love. I knew very well that no matter how much I acted up, Yunqi would turn a blind eye and not bother to argue with me. But Siren was his bottom line, and I didn't dare to touch her, so I always intentionally avoided her. I used to think that she was so gentle, kind, and considerate, that Su Shui and Chen Zi had misunderstood her. But at this moment I realized that she seemed like a different person. Yunqi let out a cold snort. Humph. Just as I suspected. Sure, Wei Wei, when will she ever grow up? He said angrily. But I noticed that after hearing Siren's words, his expression instantly relaxed. It was as if something had finally settled in his heart. But I heard her mother reported her missing. Haven't the police found her yet? Siren's tone suddenly became urgent. Yunqi said coldly, the police have already dropped the case. They won't be looking for her anymore. She's just messing around, wasting public resources. I stared intently at Siren's face, and sure enough, upon hearing Yunqi's words, she suddenly breathed a sigh of relief, and the frown that had been on her face all this time finally relaxed. I was instantly confused. Judging by the change in Siren's expression, it seemed like she didn't want Yunqi to find me. I was completely baffled when the assistant's phone call summoned Yunqi away. I didn't immediately follow him. Instead, I stayed and lingered in Siren's house. My intuition told me that this woman was hiding something. Sure enough, Siren opened a locked cabinet and took out something. When I saw it, my mind went blank. The next moment I reacted, shaking all over, my eyes bloodshot, staring at her. Sure, Wei Wei, you didn't have to die. But you insisted on getting in my way, so you had to die. What Siren was holding was my memorial tablet. Her tone was sorrowful, but her red lips curled into a pleased smile, which was unspeakably eerie. For a moment I was in a daze, unable to tell who between us was the ghost. She then said disdainfully, if you had just behaved, I would have been the madam of the Li group long ago. Why did you have to fight me for a man? What do you have that isn't mine? You should have just given Yunqi to me. But you insisted on going against me. I clenched my fists, my body trembling even more violently. Especially her words, what do you have that isn't mine? The indifferent tone made my blood boil. I almost couldn't contain myself. But at this moment Siren's expression changed. As if she had thought of something, her eyes widened, revealing hatred. Sure, Wei, do you know? The first time I saw you I hated you so much. Why were you born with all this? The heavens are so unfair. Her resentful gaze made my heart skip a beat. My thoughts instantly went back to many years ago. My first year in college. In my first year of college I shared a dorm room with Siren, Sushui and Chanzi. I came from the wealthiest family. Sushui and Chanzi's parents were both local state-owned enterprise employees from a small town. Siren, on the other hand, came from a broken home. Her father was a compulsive gambler, her mother was disabled, and she had 2 younger siblings to take care of. Her family was dirt poor. At first I didn't interact much with Siren, but I spent a lot of time with Sushui and Chanzi. We were always laughing and joking, getting along like old friends. Sushui and Chanzi didn't like Siren at all. They'd often gossip about her behind her back. I didn't really care. I wasn't particularly fond of or against Siren. She mostly kept to herself, reading on her bed, separated from us by an old, thick curtain. But what I didn't know was that, even though Siren and I barely spoke, she had already planted the seeds of hatred for me deep in her heart. The betrayal unfolds. Do you remember when we first became friends? Siren's voice echoed eerily, as if speaking to the spirits. You'll never know why that bitch told everyone to beat me up. It's because I found out you were seducing her husband. And she couldn't take it. Her laughter was smug, cruel and chilling. Even in death it sent a cold shiver down my spine. I recalled that day, the day Siren had been dragged into an alley and beaten by a group of women. I happened to see it and followed them. I'd always felt sorry for Siren, and seeing her getting slapped and stripped by those women, I couldn't stand it anymore. I rushed to stop them, but while I was distracted trying to protect her, Siren took the chance to escape. I nearly broke my leg during the scuffle. She came to the hospital to visit me afterward, saying she was too scared at the time to call the police. She looked so pitiful, drenched in tears. I comforted her, completely unaware that the person who had been secretly funding her education was a businessman from Haicheng. Siren had been receiving financial support from him, and during a dinner with the generous man, she had tried to seduce him, thinking he could offer her a better life. Unfortunately, his wife found out, and she ordered the beating. But none of this came to light until after I died. The true nature of betrayal. Siwei, everything that's happened to you. It's all your own fault. Siren's words pierced the air like a knife. Her words filled me with a sudden understanding. The truth dawned on me in a cold, nauseating rush. Yes, after that incident Siren and I had become closer. When my birthday came, Sushui and Chanzi gave me expensive cosmetics, while Siren gave me something she had spent weeks making. A hand-knitted sweater. I was touched beyond words. The love I felt for her grew stronger with every passing day. Slowly, I drifted away from Sushui and Chanzi, and Siren became my closest friend. I spent money on her without a second thought, buying everything from tuition fees to her daily meals, even her clothes and toiletries. I was completely devoted to her. My father had a new family, my mother was far away, and I lacked for nothing except love. So I lavished money on Siren, hoping to buy the affection I craved. But little did I know, those sleepless nights Siren spent knitting that sweater weren't spent out of love. They were spent weaving a trap that would eventually destroy me. The cold, calculated plot it wasn't until now that I realized the full extent of Siren's manipulation. Her heart was as cold and calculating as they came. No wonder even Yunqi had been completely under her control. His heart captured without question. She sneered, her eyes full of resentment. Do you know how much I hated you back then? Every day I would think, how is it that you're still alive? Why can't you just die already? I froze, chills running down my spine. The final betrayal. In my senior year I thought we were closer than ever, like sisters. But Siren had secretly bought me an insurance policy with the money I'd given her, naming herself as the beneficiary. She also had someone tamper with my car, putting it at risk, and spiked my drink with something. I didn't drink it because I wasn't thirsty and took my car in for repairs. If I hadn't been careful I would have died that day. I shuddered, realizing just how close I had come to death. Siren had tried to kill me, and I had been too blind to see it. Final thoughts as the pieces fell into place, I couldn't help but feel a mixture of fear and disgust. Siren had been playing me all along. Her smile, her kindness, it had all been a lie, a perfect mask for her true deadly intentions. The final revelation hit me hard. Siren had been working to destroy me from the beginning, and everything I thought was love had been nothing more than a carefully executed scheme to steal my life away. Seeing her facial features already extremely contorted, her ugly face and her venomous heart were revealed before my eyes. My whole body trembled violently like a leaf in the wind. It turned out that I had considered her my best friend, but all she thought about was how to kill me and get a huge compensation. Suddenly, I thought of the popular TV series Lost Her, that I had watched before I died. Only the person who wanted to kill me for money wasn't my husband but my best friend. Later, when I played with Yunqi and other friends, I introduced Siren to them, and Siren met Yunqi. From then on, Siren changed her mind and finally decided to let me go. But her real purpose was to use me as a stepping stone to realize her dream of becoming the president's wife of the Lee group. Siren saw the memorial tablet in her hand, and a smile instantly appeared on her face, and her hatred also disappeared. Anyway, now you are finally dead. Actually, I was just taking a gamble, but I didn't expect that perverted serial killer to actually appear. Sure, Wei Wei, you said you had to oppose me and refused to die, but haven't you died now? This is your fate. Looking at the memorial tablet in front of her, thinking that I was now completely dead, Siren's smugness could no longer be concealed, and she was extremely happy. My mind went blank as if I had been struck by 5 thunderbolts. Although I had guessed it just now, I didn't want to believe it. It was her. The TV said that the perverted serial killer who had recently committed crimes in Haicheng had a fetish, and he was keen on targeting young women who were dressed revealingly, especially those wearing short red skirts. So Siren wore a short red skirt every night and wandered around the alley. The night before my accident, Siren suddenly felt that someone was following her. But because she was here to fish, she had already thought of a way to escape, and the serial killer missed her. The next night, Siren knew that the time was right, so she deliberately sent me a text message with Yunqi's mobile phone. I rushed to Siren's apartment in the middle of the night to find her, but I met the serial killer who was waiting for me. Although I was not wearing a short red skirt, the serial killer mistook me for Siren, who had been wearing a short red skirt a few days ago, so I tragically fell into his clutches. Siren was betting that I would take a shortcut and walk through that alley. Perhaps she knew me too well, or perhaps, as Siren said, this was all my fate. It was also her fate. No matter how vicious her heart was, she was lucky. Favored by the heavens, the more evil she did, the more complete and happy she was. The thought of Yunqi deeply loving this vicious woman, loving her to the bone. I felt like I had fallen into an ice cellar, and my heart was cut like a knife. Siren looked at my memorial tablet and continued to smile happily. The uncontrollable smugness made her face look terrifyingly twisted. I was even in a trance for a moment, unable to tell whether the man who killed me was the serial killer, or whether this crazy woman in front of me was the devil. Siren fell asleep with excitement and satisfaction. But every inch of my soul was burning with unwillingness and hatred. I still lingered in the room staring at her, unwilling to leave for a long time. When I was alive, every time I saw a haunted house in a ghost movie, there was always resentment. It turned out that this was true. If a Taoist priest passed by at this moment, he would definitely see that the resentment in this house was soaring. But sadly, I am just a wisp of a soul, and I can't be like the evil spirits in ghost movies, who can personally bring the bad guys to justice and let them receive the retribution they deserve. The immense anger and hatred had clouded my mind. In a daze, I somehow came to another place. In stark contrast to Siren sleeping soundly, someone tossed and turned all night because of me. In the darkness, I saw my mother's swollen eyes from crying and heard her frequent sighs. My heart ached even more. I wanted to rush over and hug her, tell her, "Mom, I was wrong. Now I know that you are the one who loves me the most in this world. If I could live again, I would never love that man again, and I would not revolve around him all day. I just want to be filial to you, go to the capital with you and take care of you in your old age. I will never return to Haicheng again." But the thought that this was impossible suddenly filled my heart with despair intertwined with pain, guilt, and regret. It turned into heart-wrenching pain, and I felt like I was being torn apart. After barely making it to dawn, Su Yutong forced herself to eat half a steamed bun and a spoonful of corn porridge. Suddenly, her phone rang. It was Officer Chun. "Miss Su, your daughter has been found." Su Yutong was instantly excited but overlooked Officer Chen's heavy tone. But I also found it strange. My body and I have a connection. If the police really found my body, which had been made into a specimen in the serial killer's house, I should have felt something. What's going on? I frowned, feeling puzzled. Su Yutong hurried to the Public Security Bureau of the Minhua New District in Haicheng City, only to see Officer Chun putting on his hat and preparing to go out. He said to Su Yutong, "You came at the right time. Let's go to the Lee group together. Yunqi has found your daughter." Hearing Officer Chen's words, I was even more shocked. Felt like a bolt from the blue. Yunqi found her. How is that possible? He's finally free of my pestering and is busy having a sweet romance with Siren. How could he have the time and energy to look for me? Could it be that Yunqi is indifferent to me on the surface, but deep down he still cares about me? At this thought, a small flame ignited in my heart which had already turned to ashes. My mind was dizzy, and my body couldn't help but tremble slightly with excitement. But I was puzzled. My body was hidden at home by the murderer, just a wall away from the police. Even the police couldn't find me. How did Yunqi find me? And he has already found me, but why don't I feel anything? I immediately followed Officer Chan and Su Yutong to the office of the CEO of the Lee Group. Yunqi was indeed waiting for them. Then he threw a notebook on the table. I was shocked again. Isn't this my diary? I didn't like studying, so my education level was not high. I didn't have the habit of writing a diary. I would share any thoughts with Siren. I had no secrets from her. But after I got out of prison, Siren was already with Yunqi. I had offended all my friends who were good to me because of Siren, because they all hated her. So besides Siren, I didn't have a single friend. Therefore, from then on, I fell in love with writing a diary. I wrote down all my unrequited love for Yunqi in this diary. Officer Chan opened the diary and looked at it. He cast a strange look at Yunqi. Perhaps he didn't expect that the true story behind a wealthy marriage would be so dark, unbearable, and melodramatic. Yunqi frowned and said unhappily, "Look at the last page." Officer Chan coughed to cover up his embarrassment and flipped to the last page. He was stunned. Su Yutong immediately leaned over to take a look. Her face instantly turned pale, her eyes went blank, and she stumbled back 2 steps. If Officer Chan hadn't caught her in time, she would have fallen to the ground. What's going on? What did I write? I can't even remember myself. I floated over and glanced at the last page. In an instant, it was another bolt from the blue. I froze in place and the blood in my body seemed to freeze. How could it be like this? At this time, Su Yutong, who was being supported by Officer Chan, finally reacted and leaned on Officer Chen's shoulder, wailing in despair. "Wei Wei, my daughter. How could you be so cruel? How could you just leave your mother like this? How will your mother live on?" At this moment, I finally recovered from the shock. Wait, how could there be this page in my diary? I clearly didn't write the content of this page, but here it was in black and white. And it was clearly my handwriting. On this page, I cried about not being able to get Yunqi's love, so I didn't want to live anymore. And I instructed them not to look for me because when someone found the diary, my body would have already been eaten by the fish in the river, and they wouldn't be able to find me. I couldn't help but gasp. In other words, this is a suicide note that even I have never seen. The gist is that I committed suicide by jumping into the river for love. It's you. Suddenly, Su Yutong let out a shrill scream and rushed towards Yunqi in anger. Officer Chen stopped her in time. But Yunqi didn't dodge, not even raising an eyebrow. Only his eyes seemed darker and deeper than usual, like a bottomless abyss. "Give me back my daughter. You forced her to death. You bastard." Su Yutong cursed at Yunqi, without a trace of the gentle and weak scholar and professor she usually was. My heart ached again. Women are weak, but mothers are strong, it's indeed true. Yunqi still didn't say a word. But his face turned even more sullen. Officer Chen's gaze suddenly sharpened as he stared intently at Yunqi. "Mr. Lee, before your wife's accident, did you not notice anything unusual about her?" Even I could hear that his words were, firstly, questioning whether I had actually committed suicide, and secondly, questioning how he could feel nothing when his wife was about to commit suicide. And now, looking at this suicide note, it's very likely that I'm already dead. But there's not a trace of sadness on Yunqi's face. A bitter smile tugged at the corners of my mouth. How could he possibly be sad? Knowing that I might have committed suicide by jumping into the river, he should be relieved. And the spark that had just reignited was now extinguished by a bucket of ice water, leaving me chilled to the bone. Although I was mentally prepared that he had never loved me, his coldness and ruthlessness still chilled my heart. They say that even a single day of marriage brings 100 days of kindness, but he feels nothing. Even a cat or a dog would develop feelings after being together for so long, huh? Yunqi was right. I really am incorrigible. Even at this point, I still harbor a glimmer of hope for this man. Yunqi finally spoke in a heavy voice. "Since she's already dead, let's bury her as soon as possible." Such a decisive and powerful tone. Both Su Yutong and Officer Chun were stunned. Su Yutong snapped back to reality. "Yunqi." Before she could unleash her fury, Yunqi impatiently interrupted her. "If you want to see your daughter again, listen to me. Sure, Wei Wei will definitely appear at the funeral." He paused, then added coldly, "If she's still alive." Su Yutong was stunned again. It took me a while to realize that Yunqi was planning to flush out the snake, using a scheme to force me to show myself. It seems he never believed I would die. But what puzzled me more was that when he said, "If she's still alive," I saw a flicker of panic in his deep eyes. Then I laughed self-deprecatingly. It must be my imagination. How could this man possibly panic for me? Sure enough, when I looked up again, Yunqi's expression was still cold and calm, the trace of panic completely gone. And what if? Officer Chun hesitated. Of course, I knew he wanted to ask what if I really was dead and didn't appear at the funeral. Yunqi guessed it too. His voice was icy. If she doesn't appear, it proves she really committed suicide. Then this funeral will be appropriate. Su Yutong pointed at him, her voice trembling with anger. Li, how can you be so cold-blooded? You and Weiwei were married for 3 years. Even a single day of marriage creates a bond. Even if she's dead, what does it have to do with me? She didn't value her own life. The words, "what does it have to do with me," were so resolute, so indifferent. Those words finally made my heart completely cold and dead towards him. I couldn't help but burst into hysterical laughter. But as I laughed, tears streamed down my face. I stared blankly at the man. The man I had loved deeply for half my life. I had given him so much only to receive a casual "what does it have to do with me" in return. Hatred surged within me, but more than that, a sense of helplessness. Officer Chan pursed his lips tightly, glaring at Yunqi. It was clear he was suppressing his anger too. But Yunqi was right, it had nothing to do with him. Because in this world there are only legal judgments, not moral ones. He could only comfort and support the collapsing Su Yutong as they left. As expected, Yunqi quickly held a funeral for me. And unsurprisingly, I didn't show up. Su Yutong had been holding on, desperately waiting for me to appear. In the end, she was consumed by despair and collapsed from the shock and grief. Yunqi sent someone to take her to the hospital. By siren, dressed in black with swollen red eyes, walked over. Yunqi, it seems Weiwei really committed suicide. Yunqi stood with his back to her, facing my portrait, motionless. By siren couldn't help but reach out and touch his arm. She recoiled in surprise. Yunqi, your hand. It's like ice. Yunqi suddenly came to his senses, turning to look at her. A layer of fog in his dark eyes. What did you say? I saw By siren's expression change instantly. I don't know what she was thinking. She turned to look at my portrait, blinked and tears fell. Weiwei, why did you do this? Now that you're dead, I owe you so much I'll never be able to repay you in this lifetime. Aren't you making me feel guilty forever? If it were before, I would have been deeply moved by siren's false words. But after seeing her true colors, I could finally understand the hidden daggers in her words. As expected, Yunqi's face instantly darkened. Ignoring the crowd, he held her hand and comforted her softly. Don't think too much, you'll hurt yourself. She was too fragile, her mental fortitude was too weak. Her death has nothing to do with you. By siren felt dizzy from excessive grief and swayed. Without thinking, Yunqi wrapped his arm around her waist, and she naturally fell into his embrace. Suddenly, someone rushed forward, pulled By siren away and slapped her hard. Bitch! Weiwei's body is still cold, and you're here seducing her man in front of her. Just how desperate are you for a man? By siren was stunned. I was stunned too. I didn't expect my college roommate, Chan Zi, to suddenly appear, her eyes also red from crying just like Su Yutong. My vision blurred with tears and my heart ached with a searing pain. It turns out I let down so many people who truly cared for me. Chan Zi was about to attack again. But Yunqi grabbed her hand and shoved her away roughly. Crazy woman. Just like Shi Weiwei. Always going crazy. Birds of a feather flocked together. His eyes were filled with contempt. My blood boiled. And I wished I could rush over and slap him too. Yunqi, you bastard. Weiwei's death is all your fault, you two dogs. I won't let you off. Even if Weiwei becomes a ghost, she'll never let you off. Chan Zi shrieked. Hearing that last sentence, I saw By siren flinch, a flicker of panic in her eyes. She glanced subconsciously in my direction, as if sensing something. But she quickly regained her composure. Pale, she hid in Yunqi's arms and said pitifully, "What do you want me to do? Do I have to die too to be buried with Weiwei, before you'll let me go?" Chan Zi blurted out, "Yes, you should just die." Yunqi finally snapped, his eyes sharp as if he wanted to eat someone alive. "Shut up. If you dare touch a single hair on her head, I'll have your whole family buried with her." I stared blankly at the enraged Yunqi. So this is what a man truly in love looks like. But I've lived such a short life and never experienced it. Mr. Li. Officer Chen's sudden appearance interrupted everyone. Officer Chan called Yunqi aside, but Yunqi's gaze never left By siren, fearing Chan Zi might attack her again. Preoccupied, Yunqi didn't hear what Officer Chan said. "Mr. Li, we found some belongings by the river, confirmed to be your wife's. So your wife is most likely dead." Officer Chen's voice was low, afraid of an extreme reaction from the deceased's family. But clearly he guessed wrong this time. Yunqi, still staring at By siren and Chan Zi, said indifferently, Officer Chan sighed. "Retrieving your wife's body will be difficult. We found the belongings where 3 rivers converge, so we don't know where her body has drifted. And after so many days, The salvage operation will be quite challenging. No need. Yunqi still didn't turn around, saying coldly, she chose to die. Consider it a burial at sea. No need for retrieval, it's a waste of public resources. Although I'm used to his coldness, I still couldn't help but shiver. Even a short marriage creates a bond. I couldn't listen anymore, so I walked towards Bai Siren and Chanzi. Without Yunqi around, Bai Siren didn't need to pretend. Too bad. Even if you defend Shi Weiwei, she's already dead. To her death, she still thought of me as a friend and you as an enemy. Wasn't she stupider than a pig? Ha ha ha. I clenched my fists so tightly my nails almost dug into my flesh. Chanzi, Su Shui, and I were once best friends, but I broke off with them after they almost had Bai Siren raped. I was furious. Now I know it was all a self-directed sympathy play by Bai Siren. Chanzi was livid. Bitch. She was about to lash out again, but Bai Siren stopped her with a low voice. I'm Yunqi's most beloved woman. If you dare touch me, he'll smash Shi Weiwei's memorial hall. Chanzi reluctantly withdrew her hand, fuming. Bai Siren, aren't you afraid of karma? As long as Shi Weiwei's dead, Yunqi will marry me soon. I'll be the young mistress of the Li family, the CEO's wife of the Li group. Yunqi adores me, he swore to love only me for life. So tell me what karma? Ha ha ha. Bai Siren's triumphant voice stung my ears. My chest tightened, a metallic taste rose in my throat, and I almost vomited blood. Why? Is it true that good people don't get rewarded and evil prevails? Chanzi almost lost control again. But Yunqi had already walked over. Bai Siren immediately put on a tearful, pitiful act. I know I was wrong. If it wasn't for me, Weiwei wouldn't have killed herself. I should be the one dead, not Weiwei. Don't worry, I'll never marry Yunqi. I'll stay single for life to atone for Weiwei. Yunqi's anger flared again. Enough. It's not your fault. What nonsense are you talking about? He gritted his teeth, his hatred palpable. I reckon if my corpse were here, he'd grind my bones to dust. He continued furiously, after Shi Weiwei's burial we'll get married. A grand wedding. Don't worry. I'll let all of Haiqing see our wedding. You'll marry into the Li family in glory. I suddenly remembered our wedding. He was with Bai Siren then, and I took a taxi to the Li family alone in my wedding dress. Now Yunqi is going to give Bai Siren a fairy tale wedding. He really loves Bai Siren. Today is Yunqi and Bai Siren's wedding day. I didn't plan to go, why would I want to torture myself? I stayed at the hospital with Su Yutong, who had been in a coma. She finally woke up at dawn. The doctor said she was out of danger and could go home after a little rest. Su Yutong planned to pack her things and return to the capital. I followed her out of the hospital. But as if possessed, my feet started walking in the opposite direction. I arrived at the Victoria Hotel, where Yunqi and Bai Siren were holding their wedding of the century today. So be it, I'll endure the pain, as long as I see them complete the wedding with my own eyes. From now on, no matter how much I love, I won't love anymore. No matter how unwilling I am to give up, I will give up. I will follow Su Yutong to the capital. From now on, my soul will never set foot in Haiqing again. I made up my mind. Bai Siren has had it too easy all along, so much so that she has become a little carried away. Among the guests she invited, besides her relatives from her hometown, there were surprisingly many of my college classmates and friends, including Su Shui and Chanzi. She wanted to humiliate me in this way, to let my friends know that they were blind to befriend me and shun her. Now Bai Siren is the one who has the last laugh. Bai Siren is the biggest winner. I know Bai Siren doesn't have the ability to bring them all here, it must be Yunqi. But there were also uninvited guests such as my father and his family. They came sincerely to congratulate the wedding and even brought a generous gift. Yunqi, should I wear the jade bracelet or the gold bracelet? Bai Siren asked, holding two bracelets, hesitating. But she didn't hear Yunqi's answer for a long time. Bai Siren looked up and saw Yunqi standing tall in front of the French window, looking into the distance, lost in thought. Like a towering pine tree. Bai Siren's expression changed. A hint of viciousness flashed in her eyes. She quickly recovered, muttering to herself but loud enough. Forget it, I won't wear them. Weiwei hates me so much. She definitely doesn't want to see me happy. Bai Siren had figured it out. As long as I was mentioned, Yunqi would definitely get angry. Sure enough, Yunqi was startled and turned his head abruptly. Why are you mentioning a dead person on our big day? Don't you think it's unlucky? He said coldly. Without another word, he grabbed a bracelet and put it on her. However, I inexplicably felt that he was Nal Shoucheng Nu, as if Bai Siren had struck a nerve. Even Bai Siren noticed it. Her expression changed. She wanted to say something, but Yunqi dropped a sentence. I'm going to greet the guests. And left in a hurry. Bai Siren is really not human. She actually asked Su Shui and Chanzi to be her bridesmaids. Su Shui and Chanzi couldn't be bothered with her, but Bai Siren used Yunqi to threaten them. They had no choice but to swallow their humiliation silently. I turned and followed Yunqi, because this might be the last time I see him. But strangely, he didn't go to the hotel entrance to greet the guests, but went to a secluded fire escape and lit a cigarette. I found it very strange, because I know Yunqi doesn't smoke. But now he was smoking one after another. He was just in a daze, his eyes heavy. He smoked half of each cigarette, and the wind blew away the other half. He murmured to himself, "Even today, you still won't show up?" Because his voice was very soft, I didn't hear it clearly. I was even more confused. He finally got what he wanted. He was about to marry the woman he loved. But why his recent behavior has become more and more abnormal, more and more strange? He finished the last cigarette, as if he had made a decision, and turned to walk towards the hall. Behind the door, the faint sounds of rustling clothes, laughter, and chatter could be heard, as if it were a completely different world from a moment ago. The wedding was about to begin. He adjusted his suit, took the bouquet from his assistant, and prepared to meet his bride. "Mr. Lee." Suddenly a voice rang out. Yunqi turned his head and saw Officer Chun running towards him, panting. He seemed to have a premonition of something. His expression changed. "Mr. Lee, there's something I need to." But Yunqi interrupted him coldly. "Officer Chun, nothing is more important than my wedding right now. Whatever it is, it can wait until after today." He turned to stride forward again. But Officer Chun was anxious. "Mr. Lee, I hope you'll read this before you decide whether to go through with this wedding." He took out a document, but Yunqi frowned and said impatiently without looking back, "In that case, I'm even less inclined to read it." Just as he was about to push open the door, Officer Chun, in his anxiety, shouted angrily, "Don't you want to know how Shi Weiwei really died?" Yunqi finally froze, stopping in his tracks. He turned his head, his face was gloomier than ever. His eyes were as dark as ink, and there was even a hint of ashen despair. Officer Chun and I both thought he would ask, "How did she die?" However, Yunqi's face became increasingly pale. His lips trembled. After a long while, he finally spoke in a trembling voice. Is she really dead?" Yunqi's words left Officer Chun and me stunned. Officer Chun in particular was bewildered for a couple of seconds before asking, "Mr. Lee, weren't you certain that your ex-wife was dead, which is why you married Ms. Bai?" Yunqi didn't answer, he just stood there for a long time. If he resembled a sturdy pine tree before, now he looked more like a statue. Officer Chun didn't have time to waste, so he walked over and handed him the document back. "Mr. Lee, take a look," Officer Chun said, then left. Yunqi held the document back, still frozen in place. I was even more curious than him, desperately hoping he would open it and see what was inside. Had Officer Chun discovered the truth? But I had a nagging feeling that something was off. If the police had caught the murderous fiend and found my specimen, I should have sensed it. Moreover, if this had something to do with Bai Siren, the police had already arrested her. They wouldn't have come to Yunqi to say such pointless things. So, at this moment I was burning with anxiety. What exactly was in this document bag? The next second, Yunqi finally picked up the document bag, and my heart leaped into my throat. Would he open it and take a look? Or would he just throw it in the trash? However, a white light suddenly flashed before my eyes, stinging them and making me dizzy. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in the murderer's rental apartment. Every time this happened, it was definitely related to my body. Sure enough, I saw with horror a young woman bound, being dragged by the murderer to admire my specimen. The woman's mouth was sealed with tape, and she could only make muffled sounds, scared half to death. I gasped, and couldn't help but curse in my heart. What were the police doing? So many people had died, and they still hadn't caught the killer. What was even more terrifying was that the murderer was walking in and out right under their noses every day. Just thinking about the killer's strong and twisted mentality sent shivers down my spine. "Isn't she beautiful, baby?" The murderer's voice was low and sinister. If I hadn't known he was the killer, I, like Officer Chen and the others, wouldn't have believed that this fair-skinned and slender man was a serial killer. Beautiful? The girl's eyes widened. Only now did she realize that the killer wasn't an ordinary murderer, but a deranged one. She gasped and began to struggle even more violently. But the more she resisted, the more excited the murderer became, his narrow eyes brightening. "Don't be impatient, baby. Soon, I'll make you even more beautiful, even more perfect than her." The girl. Her eyelids fluttered and she finally fainted. I watched with growing anxiety, seeing the murderer eagerly lift the girl's body onto the table where I had once lain. I knew that if I didn't do something, the girl's fate would be the same as mine. But I was just a spirit, what could I do? I paced around the room anxiously. In my desperation, I tried to grab a chair and smash it over the murderer's head. But my hands just went right through the chair and I stumbled. What to do? What to do? Although I died a terrible death, I didn't want anyone else to suffer the same fate. She was so young, probably only in her 20s. She had a long life ahead of her. As I thought about this, my chest filled with rage, surging up to my head, almost making me explode. But all I could do was watch helplessly as the murderer took out an axe, dried blood on it. I wasn't sure if it was mine. Just as the axe was about to come down, I finally lost control. Ah! I grabbed the chair again and swung it at the back of the murderer's head. Although I knew it was useless, I was mad I had lost my mind. But the next moment I heard a thud, and I froze. The murderer was also shocked, but he just turned around in terror for a moment before collapsing to the ground. I stood there rigidly, unable to recover for a long time. How could this be? I was clearly a spirit. Just now, after I finally calmed down, I tried to pick up the chair again. But this time it went right through. I gasped. Now I finally understood. When my emotions reached their peak, when I was almost completely mad, I could unleash a special power. But I didn't have time to think about it. I just anxiously waited for the girl to wake up and escape this hellhole. But the girl remained unconscious. I tried to touch her, but it was no use. I even forced myself to become angry. But no matter what, I couldn't reach the state of emotional outburst I had before. As time ticked by, I became increasingly desperate. Because if the girl could escape, not only would she save her life, but if she reported it to the police, my case would be solved. If the police caught the murderer, no more girls would be harmed. The sky gradually darkened. Just as I was about to give up completely, the girl suddenly opened her eyes. I finally breathed a long sigh of relief, so excited that tears welled up in my eyes. Because of the immense shock, when the girl got off the table, her legs gave out, and she fell to the ground. Fortunately, the will to survive overcame everything, and she finally stumbled out of the rental apartment. Luckily, the murderer was still unconscious when she escaped. I quickly followed the girl. My heart was pounding with excitement, anticipating the moment she would report the crime and the police would catch the murderer. Sure enough, she ran to the police station entrance. But just as she was about to go in, she suddenly hesitated. She thought for a moment, then borrowed a passerby's phone to make a call. I listened in. Are you stupid? Why report it? What if the bad guy retaliates? Come back quickly. I'm also afraid he'll retaliate, so I haven't reported it yet. But, Mom, he's the serial killer on TV. If I don't report it, will more people die at his hands? The girl was a little hesitant, but she was interrupted by a scolding voice. What do other people's lives have to do with you? Don't be nosy. The girl ultimately did not step into the police station, and my hope that the case would finally be solved, that the police would finally find my body, was once again dashed. I wanted to curse, but in the end I laughed. But as I laughed, my heart sank into an icy abyss. That's right, being nosy. If I hadn't been nosy earlier, that girl would be a cold corpse now too. Stepping out of the girl's home, I walked the streets in a daze. By this time, Yunqi and Siren would have long finished their wedding, returning to their bridal chamber to enjoy their sweet newlywed life. The series of blows I had suffered today left me in a trance, repeatedly passing through the bodies of pedestrians without avoiding them. It was all over. Siren was the ultimate victor, having obtained everything she desired. Today there was a great chance to solve the case, to reveal the truth of my death to the world. But that hope was also shattered. I knew there wouldn't be another opportunity. The murderer was highly aware of counter-investigation. After the girl's escape, the culprit would undoubtedly become cautious and cease their activities. They would also quickly erase all traces, rendering it useless even if the girl later found her conscience and reported the incident. So, I should go. It's time to leave. Leave Haiqing with Su Yutong. Go to the capital, never to set foot here again. With this thought, I mustered my spirits and went to the hotel where Su Yutong was staying. As expected, she was packing her luggage. Suddenly she received a call, the caller ID displaying Officer Chan. Miss Su, do you know a man named Renjie? Is he acquainted with your daughter? Su Yutong and I were both stunned. She of course didn't know him, but I did. And I remembered him even if he turned to ashes. I clenched my fists tightly with resentment. Su Yutong anxiously asked, No, what's wrong, Officer Chan? Officer Chan hesitated. We've discovered some things. There's a high probability that this Renjie is connected to the case of your daughter's incident. And Renjie has also confessed to some things. We showed his confession to Yunqi, and Yunqi called off the wedding and turned himself in at the police station. I was dumbfounded again, frozen in place. What? Yunqi went to the police station to turn himself in, but I was clearly killed by Siren using the serial killer as a weapon. How did it get connected to Yunqi? And even more shocking to me was that Yunqi actually cancelled the wedding. I knew that Siren was the apple of his eye. What monumental event could have made him decide to cancel his wedding with Siren? At this moment I was even more puzzled than Su Yutong. Fortunately, Su Yutong immediately agreed to go to the police station, so I went with her. Indeed, Renjie was being interrogated. He was also from the same circle we grew up in, but unlike the other kids, he wasn't exactly a rich second generation. His grandfather was the butler of the Li family, and old Master Li trusted him very much, so Renjie grew up in the Li family since he was a child. Over time, he truly considered himself a young master of the Li family, arrogant and domineering. To please Li Yunqi, knowing that Li Yunqi hated me, he bullied me in various ways since childhood. The most outrageous incident was that time. Officer Chun, who was interrogating Renjie, suddenly slammed the table, his shout interrupting my thoughts. Because on March 17th you attempted to rape Shi Weiwei and almost got your lower body kicked by her, you held a grudge, and on the night of the 6th this month you raped and killed her? Where is her body? The interrogation was going smoothly, but Officer Chen's sudden roar would immediately expose any guilty conscience. Renjie trembled in fear, blurting out, "I didn't. On March 17th I was. But on the 6th I wasn't. I was at Hurricane Bar the entire night. You can check if you don't believe me." As he spoke, he felt something was off. Seeing the cold smile on Officer Chen's face, Renjie realized. He slapped his thigh. Damn, he fell for it. It turned out that Officer Chun wasn't asking about the 6th of this month, but about the incident on March 17th. Officer Chun relaxed, leaning back in his chair. A colleague handed him a cigarette, which he lit, staring at Renjie through the swirling smoke, his gaze heavy but his expression calm. He remained silent for a long time, but the more he acted like this, the more guilty Renjie became. His thoughts involuntarily returning to that day, March 17th. That day was my 3rd wedding anniversary with Li Yunqi. To ensure that Li Yunqi could spend the day with me, I went to great lengths, starting my preparations 3 days in advance. Although it was already spring, the weather was still very cold. While others were still wearing down jackets, I went out in just a shirt. As expected, I caught a cold the next day, but I wasn't satisfied. That night, I even took a cold shower. On the 3rd day, I had a high fever. When I saw the thermometer showing 40 degrees, I was overjoyed. Lying in the hospital bed, I quickly called Li Yunqi, but Li Yunqi only replied with one sentence before hanging up. "Shi Weiwei, call me when you're dead, and I'll come collect your body. Don't call me before you're dead." Hearing the busy tone on the other end, I felt like another bucket of ice water had been poured over me. But I don't know if I was delirious from the fever or what, but I wasn't angry at his cold and heartless words. Instead, I wondered if I wasn't miserable enough. Did I really have to be half dead for him to come see me? I turned to look out the window and a serious thought popped into my head. If I jumped from here and broke a leg or something, he would definitely come, right? I walked towards the window, possessed. As if I were under a spell, I would do anything just to see Li Yunqi. Thinking back now, I really want to slap myself from back then. Was it just a man? Why was I so lowly? It's no wonder Li Yunqi hated me. Even I loathed myself from back then. Fortunately, someone knocked on the door, stopping my madness in time. However, the person who came was By Siren. I thought, if By Siren knew that if she hadn't shown up in time, I probably would have jumped from the building, she would be so regretful. She wouldn't have had to go to such lengths later to kill me. I didn't want to see By Siren. Although she was the third party between Li Yunqi and me, I never thought of causing her trouble. But she came looking for me. "Weiwei, I heard you were sick, so I came to see you." I felt a pang in my heart. It was bad enough that Li Yunqi couldn't come. Why did he have to send her? I was usually a headstrong person, but in front of By Siren, I involuntarily turned into a coward. I lowered my head and walked outside, mumbling humbly. The doctor asked me to go to his office. "Weiwei, stop hurting yourself for a man who doesn't love you," By Siren said righteously from behind. "Why bother? He doesn't love you. No matter what you do, he won't even look at you." Her tone was full of pity, but it felt particularly grating to my ears. I silently refuted in my heart, "But he is my husband, I am willing." But I was a coward, I didn't even dare to lift my head in front of her. Perhaps it was because of the saying, "The one who is not loved is the third party." Although I was Li Yunqi's legally recognized wife, By Siren was the woman he deeply loved. At that time, subconsciously, I felt very inferior in front of By Siren. Seeing that I kept my head down and didn't say a word, By Siren's face showed displeasure. She frowned and continued earnestly. "Weiwei, don't be like this. Do you know that every time you do those silly things for Yunqi, he curses you with very harsh words in front of me? Do you know how much it hurts me to see you like this?" I suddenly raised my head and looked at her. My lips trembled, but I couldn't utter a single word. I lowered my head again. My stubbornness completely angered By Siren, who was trying to persuade me to give up. She suddenly knelt down from the chair and grabbed my hand. "Wei, ibegahyu, let's say ni go. Do you know how painful it is for a man to be forced to marry a woman he doesn't love? I can't stand it anymore. I feel sorry for you and I feel sorry for him. Please let him go." Her sudden kneeling startled me, but her words made me feel even colder, as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over my head. I stared at her blankly, my mind a complete blank.
She vai vai.
What are you doing? Suddenly a reprimand came from behind me, and I shuddered. Turning around, I saw Yunqi striding over, his face looking like he wanted to eat me. But at that time I was really cowardly and stupid. Hubby, you're finally here? I knew you wouldn't leave me alone. Enough. Siren was worried about you and insisted on coming to see you. She told me to wait outside. I thought about it and still felt uneasy. As expected. Sure, Wei Wei. Siren has always regarded you as her best friend. But you are so vicious and cruel. How dare you be Siren's friend? He dodged my arms and scooped by Siren from the floor into his embrace. My mouth hung open, staring at them blankly. How dare I be by Siren's friend? But for 4 years of college, I paid for by Siren's tuition, living expenses, clothes and school supplies. Even her mother's medical bills and her family's travel expenses were all paid by me. I looked at by Siren eagerly, expecting her to explain for me. But she buried her head deep in Yunqi's arms, her back trembling as if she had suffered a great grievance. I was indeed stupid enough at the time. Even at this point, I still hadn't seen through by Siren's true colors. Yunqi, you misunderstood. I didn't. It was her own. I honestly defended myself. By Siren knelt down on her own. What did it have to do with me? But Yunqi interrupted me with another shout. You're still lying? Sure, Wei Wei, I thought you just hadn't grown up yet. But this time you've disappointed me too much. When did you become so vicious? I saw disappointment and disgust on Yunqi's face. At this moment I was really panicked. I really didn't. I desperately tried to explain that I wasn't the kind of person he thought I was. But I could only repeat the same sentence over and over. By Siren raised her head, tears in her eyes. Yunqi, don't be angry with Wei Wei, I don't blame her. I said anxiously. Of course you can't blame me. I didn't ask you to kneel. I was telling the truth. But Yunqi interrupted me again with an angry roar. I shuddered in fright. Enough. Even now, Siren is still defending you. But you are still so ignorant and ungrateful. Yunqi's eyes were red with anger, and he gritted his teeth. Sure, Wei Wei. I really want to peel off your skin and see how dark and dirty your heart is. I was stunned and staggered back a few steps. Although he hadn't said a nice word to me since he was forced to marry me, this was the first time he had cursed me so harshly. It was all because of by Siren. But even at this point I still hadn't seen through by Siren's tricks. Maybe it was because all my thoughts were on Yunqi, but it really wasn't me. Hubby, believe me. I really didn't. I didn't know how to make him believe me, and what I didn't understand was why he blamed me without any investigation. Why didn't he suspect by Siren at all? Thinking back now, I can't help but curse myself for being a fool. Humph. Yunqi sneered. You're still pretending at this point. It's a pity you're not an actress. Unwilling to give up, I suddenly remembered. It really wasn't me. Someone can vouch for me. I saw someone walk past the door just now. By Siren suddenly collapsed softly into Yunqi's arms again. Siren. Seeing her faint, Yunqi immediately picked her up. My heart trembled heavily. Not because by Siren suddenly fainted at the critical moment, but because I had never seen such a nervous and fearful expression on Yunqi's face in my entire life. He suddenly raised his head and glared at me. Sure, Wei Wei, if anything happens to Siren, Yunqi will kill your entire family to accompany her in death. His eyes were bloodshot, revealing a fierce light. My legs went weak and I couldn't help but take 2 steps back. I believed that he wasn't just saying it casually, for by Siren he would really do it. I watched him carry by Siren away in a hurry. It took me a long time to catch my breath, but I found that my whole body was stiff and cold and even my blood seemed to have frozen. Then I started to feel scared. I was afraid that if something really happened to by Siren, Yunqi would really kill my whole family to accompany her in death. If it were me now, I would definitely rush to by Siren and stab her twice. Since she wanted to play dead, I would fulfill her wish. But I hid in the ward, not daring to make a sound, and I was constantly on edge. Until the evening someone angrily called me. Sure, Wei Wei. Do you know what a big trouble you caused today? It was Renjia. I shrank back, having already forgotten that by Siren had knelt down herself, and my heart was filled with unease and guilt. What happened to her? But my timid tone made the other party even more righteous, and he said aggressively, You still have the nerve to ask what happened to her? Isn't her current state all thanks to you? Hurry up and come over to apologize to her. Otherwise, Brother Yunqi will never forgive you. At the mention of Yunqi, I couldn't help but shudder again. Although I also felt wronged, I didn't even touch a single finger of by Siren, but thinking about how terrible Yunqi was during the day. Although I was extremely reluctant for the sake of my family, I still went to the address Renjia gave me. But I was probably so feverish that I was confused. The address Renjia gave me was neither Yunqi's villa nor by Siren's apartment building but a strange address. But I didn't realize there was anything wrong. When I entered the door and finally realized something was wrong and tried to escape, it was already too late. Sure, Wei, I heard you've been married to my brother for 3 years, and he hasn't touched you yet. You must be crazy for a man, right? Today I'll let you taste what a man is like. Renjie pushed me onto the sofa, those lewd and disgusting words ringing in my ears, making me tremble all over. Let me go. You bastard. I struggled desperately to push him away, but I couldn't. What shocked me even more was that Yunqi, who had avoided me like the plague since our marriage and had never touched me, had actually told such a private matter to a third person. But the more I reacted, the more excited he became, panting heavily. Do you know where you are? Once you come in, you can never leave. I advise you not to resist, just lie down and enjoy it. I guarantee you'll want more. Ha ha. His stinking mouth burrowed into my collar, and I couldn't hold back my terrified screams anymore. Bastard. Get away. Hubby. Hubby, save me. I seized an opportunity and slapped him hard across the face. He couldn't dodge in time. He was instantly enraged, his eyes filled with ferocity, and he retaliated with a vicious slap of his own. Bitch. You dare hit me? I'll kill you. Men are naturally stronger, and he put all his strength into it, making me see stars. I glared at him furiously. If Yunqi finds out you dared to bully his wife, aren't you afraid he'll come after you? But he burst into laughter. Sure, Wei. I don't know if you're really stupid or just pretending. Use your pig brain for once. If it weren't for Yunqi's orders, would I dare to do this? I was stunned. It was like a bolt from the blue. I instantly forgot to resist. The shock in my eyes gradually dissipated, replaced by despair. Although my cheek still stung, it was nothing compared to the heart-wrenching pain inside. It was him. It was only at that moment that I finally understood that Yunqi didn't just dislike me, he hated me. Hated me to the core. My pupils dilated and I muttered to myself, why? Why would he do this? Renjie sneered. Humph, why else? You had the audacity today to make Sister Siren kneel before you. Don't you know that Sister Siren is the apple of Yunqi's eye? You dared to bully her, and Yunqi just made you sleep with me to apologize to her. He's already been too kind to you. Every word he uttered was like a poison needle piercing my heart. The pain was unbearable. Even my internal organs felt like they were being torn apart. How could this be? Why? Why was he so cold and heartless? Even if he didn't love me, we grew up together and now I was his legal wife. No matter what, he shouldn't have treated me like this. Because I had given up struggling, he thought I had accepted my fate and released his grip on me, starting to tear at my clothes eagerly. But he didn't expect that I would quietly pick up the lamp beside me and smash it on his head. Ah! He let go of me in pain, but he didn't expect that I would immediately kick him hard in the groin. I used all my strength. This time his screams were even more shrill and distorted, probably heard throughout the entire building. While he was lying on the ground, clutching his lower body and howling, I stumbled away and escaped. I didn't go home, I just kept walking. I unknowingly walked to Binjiang Park, where many elderly people were exercising, children were playing on the grass, and happy families were laughing and playing. I sat alone on a park bench, hugging my legs, curled up. Motionless, I sat there for a long time, until night fell, until a chilly late spring drizzle soaked me to the bone. Only then did I stagger back home. But I still couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that Yunqi would really do this to me. So I gathered my courage and called Yunqi. The call connected. Yunqi was silent and cold. Hubby. My face was pale and I trembled, Renjie said. It was your order. I don't believe it. Yunqi said coldly. That's right, it was me. The words "it was me" completely crushed me. My legs gave way and I collapsed to the floor, weak and powerless. I couldn't help but burst into tears. Why did you do this to me? Humph. He sneered, full of hatred. You still have the nerve to ask why? Siren hasn't woken up yet. Even if I skinned you alive, it wouldn't be enough to soothe my hatred. His last sentence was almost gritted through his teeth. After saying that, he hung up the phone. I felt like I was falling, as if I had fallen into an abyss. It felt like thousands of ants were gnawing at my bones, every inch of my flesh ached unbearably. This immense pain made me forget that I was crying. I sat there in a daze, curled up alone in the dark room, until the sky gradually brightened. Worse than a beast. Suddenly, a furious shout, accompanied by the sound of someone pounding a table, pulled me out of my painful memories. Looking at the angry Officer Chan, Renjie was also dumbfounded. He then said anxiously, Officer, it was Yunqi. No, it was Yunqi who told me to do this. I'm just an accomplice, the mastermind is Yunqi. If you want to arrest someone, go arrest him. It's not my fault. Officer Chan sneered. Yunqi has already turned himself in. Don't worry, none of you will escape. Take him away. After Renjie was taken away, Officer Chan sat down heavily, lit another cigarette with a snap, and took a deep drag. Staring at the rising smoke, he remained silent for a long time. Because he had been running around for years investigating criminal cases, his skin was dark, his features weren't particularly handsome, but his contours were deep, his lines were firm, and his eyes were bright and piercing. He was the kind of man who was sharp but also made you feel safe. "Captain Chan, what are you thinking about?" the officer accompanying the interrogation asked curiously. Officer Chan exhaled a long stream of smoke. "I don't know why, but after so many years of handling cases, this is the first time I've been so curious about a victim." The officer was stunned. "You mean, Shi Weiwei?" Officer Chan nodded. "The more we investigate this case, the more branches there are, and the more I find this woman unfathomable." The officer was stunned again. "You mean?" Officer Chan stepped out his cigarette. "Don't you find it strange? Everyone says she's a bad woman. But can a person really be this bad? Of course there are people like that, like the serial killer we've been trying to catch. But my gut tells me that Shi Weiwei is different." My eyes welled up and tears streamed down my face. I never thought that Yunqi, who grew up with me as childhood sweethearts, would understand and trust me less than a stranger. After a pause, Officer Chun said thoughtfully, "Also, I don't know why, but I always feel like she didn't commit suicide. It's like her spirit is haunting me, hoping I can solve the case quickly, catch the murderer, find her body, and let her rest in peace." I was shocked. For a moment, I really thought he could see my soul. The aftermath of betrayal. But soon, he chuckled bitterly and shook his head. "Every time I handle a criminal case, I get this feeling. Like the spirits of the victims are haunting me, never letting go." I breathed a sigh of relief. It had startled me. The officer patted Officer Chan on the shoulder. "You've been working too many criminal cases. Your nerves are on edge, you're anxious. You need to relax. Go home and get some rest. You're on the morning shift tomorrow." But Officer Chun took a deep drag from his cigarette. "I'm not going anywhere. Isn't Yunqi turning himself in today? He's next for interrogation. Bring him in." That moment I understood. The file Officer Chun had handed to Yunqi earlier at the hotel wasn't about the truth of my murder. It was about the incident on March 17th, when I nearly became a victim of rape at the hands of Ranjia. Hearing that Officer Chun was about to interrogate Yunqi, I couldn't stop my body from trembling uncontrollably. Just hearing Ranjia recount what happened had nearly shattered me. Now I was going to have to listen to Yunqi tell his side of the story. I couldn't bear to imagine it. Would I die again, this time from the pain? So, when they were about to bring Yunqi in for questioning, I fled the suffocating environment. I stepped out into the open, but I was lost, not knowing where to go. Then it hit me, Yunqi had cancelled the wedding at the last minute. Siren must be out of her mind right now. Excited by the thought, I decided to go to her place and watch the chaos unfold. Sure enough, Siren was still wearing her wedding dress, but she was holding my memorial tablet and viciously smashing it on the floor. The wooden tablet shattered into pieces. "Shui, you bitch. Even after you're dead, you can't leave me alone. You still have to go against me." Her curses were venomous, her voice contorted with rage. Her younger brother and sister rushed in. They were furious when they learned that Yunqi had been taken by the police due to the attempted rape case, which had caused the wedding to be cancelled. "Siwei's dead, and it's still not enough for her. She's too good to her, that's the problem. If it were me, I would have torn her apart piece by piece." Siren's younger sister, Siming, who was only 16, spoke with a twisted, frightening look on her face, even more horrifying than her sister's. Her brother, Qingyu, clenched his fists with a murderous glare. "That damn slut. If she had died sooner, everything from the Shi family would be mine. The Li Corporation would be mine too. Damn her for blocking my fortune. I should have found 10 or 8 men to gang rape her. Kill her afterward." I stared at them in disbelief. I remembered when Siren's younger siblings came to Haicheng to seek refuge with her. They had claimed to be relying on her, but in truth they were relying on me. They used to call me Sister Siwei with such sweetness, as if butter wouldn't melt in their mouths. Seeing them dressed in second-hand clothes from their relatives, I couldn't bear it. On impulse, I decided to take care of all 3 sisters. Not long after, Siren's gambling-addicted mother and disabled father also moved in, and they all stayed in an apartment I had rented for Siren. They did nothing all day. I thought I was doing a good deed, helping them out of the goodness of my heart. But I didn't realize they were all demons sent from hell, draining my resources while secretly plotting my death, hoping to take over my house and my money. Then Siren, completely under the spell of Yunqi, and her blood-sucking family started eyeing the Li Corporation. Qingyu even dreamt of becoming the CEO of both the Shi and Li corporations. I couldn't suppress the cold shiver that ran down my spine. Siren scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. How was I supposed to know? Of all days, this damn case had to be investigated today? Just one step away. Siwei, this bitch, being alive is a disaster. Even in death she keeps causing trouble for me. Even though I had already seen through by Siren's true nature, hearing her, once my so-called closest friend, and her two siblings curse me with the most vile words, my heart felt as though it was being sliced open, blood pouring out. Though I wasn't a big reader, I remembered the story of the farmer and the snake. I was that foolish, naive farmer. And now those three sisters were like venomous snakes, tongues flicking in the air. Bai Simming furrowed her brows. So what now, sis? Siwei's money isn't enough to cover everything. They say my nose is too flat and I need surgery. I've also got my eye on a Louis Vuitton bag. Bai Qingyu jumped in. Yeah. I met my girlfriend's parents. I even told them that my sister would inherit the Sure Corporation, and the CEO of Li Corporation would be my brother-in-law. They're pressuring us to get married quickly, but I was becoming more confused by the second. Back in college, Bai Siren had been spending my money. Eventually, I got tired of the constant bank transfers, so I had given her a family card. Every time Bai Siren swiped the card, the money was deducted directly from my account. When she got together with Li Yunqi, her ATM became him. I had forgotten to cancel that card. After my death, she shamelessly drained all the money from my account. It was a considerable sum, and to my surprise, the three sisters had spent it all so quickly. I watched them, a bitter laugh forming on my lips. They were spending my money without guilt, while cursing me with the most venomous words. But there was something that puzzled me. They kept saying that Bai Siren would inherit the Sure family business? How was that possible? I was sure Bai Siren wasn't my father's illegitimate daughter. Though my sister and I had different mothers, we both looked like our father. Bai Siren, on the other hand, clearly looked like her own parents. But before I could think too much about it, Bai Siren confidently declared, "Don't worry. I have a plan." I left her apartment, intending to go to the hotel and spend time with my mom, Su Yutong. But then on the road I saw a familiar luxury car, and the familiar figure in the driver's seat. I stared in disbelief. Li Yunqi. How could this be? He had been the one who masterminded Renjie's assault on me. He was the mastermind. If he were convicted, his sentence would be harsher than Renjie's. How could he be free? But then it dawned on me with a sad realization: money could do anything. The Li Corporation had a powerful legal team, and such a small matter could be easily covered up. At that moment, the traffic light turned red, and his car stopped. I couldn't help myself. I walked over even though I knew it would do no good, but I wanted to slap him across the face. Beast! Scumbag! Bang! I threw a punch and it landed hard on Li Yunqi's face. His head jerked back and blood started pouring from his nose. I was stunned, frozen in place. I looked down at my hands. I hadn't even made a move yet. Meanwhile, Li Yunqi, caught off guard, had already taken several blows. The man even pulled open the car door and delivered another round of close-range punches. Li Yunqi, you bastard! What did you promise me back then? If I had known you would treat Wei Wei like this, I wouldn't have given her to you. A furious voice roared amidst the beating. My mind exploded with a bang. I stared blankly at the man. Li Yunqi had now recovered. His eyes filled with rage and began to fight back. Fu Jingrui, are you crazy? Fu Jingrui. It really was him. I looked in disbelief at the man, consumed by anger. Why had he come back? Fu Jingrui was also someone who grew up with us. Fu Jingrui had always liked me, but I liked Li Yunqi. Later Fu Jingrui found out and he was heartbroken. He then gathered his courage and confessed to me, but at that time my heart was completely set on Li Yunqi, and I was afraid that Li Yunqi would misunderstand, so I ruthlessly rejected Fu Jingrui. Thinking about it now, it's really a case of what goes around comes around. It's not that there's no retribution, it's just that the time hasn't come. In addition, Fu Jingrui's family business suffered a devastating blow at that time, so their whole family immigrated abroad. I thought I would never see him again. Stop fighting! Stop fighting! I shouted loudly, large teardrops blurring my vision. But they couldn't hear me. Finally, some passers-by couldn't stand it anymore and came to break up the fight. As more and more people joined in, the two, who were fiercely entangled, were finally separated. Li Yunqi, where is Wei Wei? Fu Jingrui was being held back, yelling hysterically. Li Yunqi was even more furious. She's dead. She jumped into the river and killed herself. Didn't you already know? What are you screaming about? I know Li Yunqi too well. I know why he's so angry. Because I'm already dead, yet people keep coming to him to seek justice for me, which annoys him. Fu Jingrui's eyes were bloodshot, filled with hatred. Li Yunqi, you bastard. She was perfectly fine when she married you 3 years ago. How could she just commit suicide? My eyes were also red. Their figures reflected as if in 2 deep pools. Li Yunqi, however, was furious. She wanted to die herself. What does it have to do with me? Fu Jingrui gritted his teeth. You must have done something to wrong her, driven her to a dead end. Li Yunqi said impatiently, she has legs. Where she wants to go and what she wants to do, can I control that? Fu Jingrui stared at him in disbelief, his jaw almost breaking from clenching. Li Yunqi, you stopped me from pursuing Wei Wei back then. You said she loved you and you would treat her well. But how have you treated her all these years? I was shocked again. Li Yunqi said. He would treat me well. How is that possible? Fu Jingrui must have heard wrong. I firmly believed. Li Yunqi's face darkened. What, after all these years you still can't forget her? Fu Jingrui, don't forget she was a married woman. He then mocked. You're really hungry, eating anything. I wished I could rush over and slap him twice. Fu Jingrui couldn't hold back anymore. But at this moment, Li Yunqi's men had arrived and restrained Fu Jingrui. Li, you can insult me, but I will never allow you to insult Wei Wei. She was so pure. How could you bear to hurt her? Fu Jingrui was heartbroken. My heart was also aching. It's my fault for being too young and naive back then, mistaking a scumbag for a treasure, and hurting the man who truly held me in the palm of his hand. If time could go back, I would kick Li Yunqi, the scumbag, far away. I would choose Fu Jingrui without hesitation. However, it was all too late. Li Yunqi sneered. Pure? Siren treated her like a best friend, but she bit her back like a dog. If it weren't for Siren's kindness and not wanting to stoop to her level, I would have sent her to jail long ago. Fu Jingrui, however, said without hesitation, impossible. He then said sarcastically, Li Yunqi, are you blind? We grew up with Wei Wei. How many years have you known that woman surnamed by? You'd rather believe that woman than Wei Wei. My heart trembled fiercely. Tears streamed down my face. So there are still some people in this world who choose to believe me. It was I who was blinded by lard before. It was I who had eyes but couldn't see. Li Yunqi's expression changed again, darkening. Enough. Today's Sure Wei Wei is not the same as before. She's ruthless and unscrupulous to achieve her goals. Her heart is more venomous than a snake's. He then said indifferently, she has done so many bad things. Suicide is the only good thing she's ever done. Only by dying can she repay all her sins. My vision blurred and I couldn't stop shaking. What sins have I committed? It was clearly by Siren who stole everything from me and killed me. How did I become the sinner in the end? At this moment, Fu Jingrui's expression was as disappointed as mine. He finally understood that Li Yunqi's love for Bai Siren had reached the point of obsession. Fu Jingrui's face was full of heartache. My heart ached even more. I knew it was for me. But I was used to it. Hearing these heart-piercing words from Li Yunqi, I was already calm. It's not that it doesn't hurt, but that I've become numb. Fu Jingrui took a deep breath. Li Yunqi, you wait. I will prove to you that Wei Wei is innocent. You wronged her. Li Yunqi was impatient. I advise you not to waste your time. This woman is best at lying and acting. There's never a true word from her. Fu Jingrui was unwilling and wanted to say more. I really wanted to stop him. Don't say anything more. It's useless. No matter what I say or do, Li Yunqi will never believe me. Love can blind people, and Li Yunqi loves Bai Siren so deeply that he has lost the ability to distinguish right from wrong. Li Yunqi didn't want to get entangled anymore, and his men immediately dragged Fu Jingrui away. After leaving, Fu Jingrui went to the hotel and found Su Yutong. Su Yutong burst into tears when she saw him. Auntie, don't worry. I'll look for her alive or dead. Even if Li Yunqi doesn't care, I will see this through to the end. Fu Jingrui made a solemn promise. Su Yutong cried even harder. I think she was mostly regretting. If she had stopped me from marrying Li Yunqi, and I had married Fu Jingrui instead, my ending would have been completely different. Only then did I know that Fu Jingrui had flown back from abroad specifically after hearing about my suicide. Auntie, I know Wei Wei. She would never commit suicide. No matter what, I won't leave Haiqing until I find Wei Wei. Fu Jingrui's appearance gave Su Yutong a pillar of support. Therefore, she also changed her mind and decided to stay. I didn't know whether to be happy or worried. Happy that although the whole world had abandoned me, I still had my mother and Fu Jingrui. Worried that one day they would find my body. Could Su Yutong bear it? The next day, Su Yutong received a call from Officer Chun. Hearing the news that the perverted serial killer had struck again, I hurriedly accompanied Su Yutong and Fu Jingrui to the police station. We arrived at the morgue and saw the body of a young girl, both familiar and unfamiliar, lying there quietly. It was her. It was actually the girl I had helped escape from the killer that day. I was struck by a bolt from the blue. I had spent so much effort to finally help her escape that hellhole. I thought she would call the police, but her mother stopped her. But in the end, she still couldn't escape her fate. She still died tragically at the hands of the killer. This is the fifth victim of the perverted serial killer. Officer Chen's tone was heavy. The immense psychological pressure and anxiety made him habitually reach for the cigarette box in his pocket. But then he realized the inappropriateness of the occasion, and he irritably stuffed it back. I looked at the girl's body, my heart filled with sorrow. I wondered if her mother would regret it. If she had immediately called the police after escaping from that hellhole and had the murderer arrested, would she still be alive and kicking today, bringing joy to her mother? Instead of being a cold corpse? Officer Chun, we don't know her. Why did you call us here? Su Yutong was puzzled. Officer Chun said gravely. Take a closer look at her eyes. Su Yutong and Fu Jingrui were stunned, and I was also surprised. We leaned in to look. Suddenly, Su Yutong stumbled and almost fell. Her eyes widened in horror. This is... Officer Chen's tone became even heavier. These are Shi Weiwei's eyes. I shivered. The eyes of the corpse were actually mine? Impossible. Suddenly a sharp voice cried out. Everyone looked at each other, it wasn't any of them. Turning around, Li Yunqi walked over, his face incredibly grim. Like dark clouds before a thunderstorm. Officer Chun glanced at him and said calmly, the corpse's eyes have been gouged out, and the murderer took the eyeballs from another corpse and placed them in this corpse's eye sockets. We have extracted the material for DNA testing, and the results will be out soon. Yes, these were my eyes. I couldn't stop trembling violently, because I remembered that when the murderer made my body into a specimen, he did indeed gouge out my eyes. Officer Chun continued, if the test results match, then it proves that Shi Weiwei did not commit suicide but was murdered. And Shi Weiwei is the 6th victim. I anxiously explained, no, I was the 5th. It's just that my body had been hidden by the murderer. But they couldn't hear me. No. Su Yutong covered her face, hysterical. I told you. It can't be her. Li Yunqi roared again, startling everyone including me. His face showed fear. What was he afraid of? Afraid that the owner of the eyes was really me? Afraid that what Officer Chan said was the truth, that I was really dead, and died a terrible death. No. I bitterly curled the corners of my mouth. Impossible. He wished I was dead. The more tragically I died, the happier Bai Siren would be. Naturally, Li Yunqi would also be very gratified. Without a word, Fu Jingrui rushed to punch him again. Bastard! You killed Weiwei. I treated her like a treasure, cherished her, but you trampled her underfoot. You scum! I'll kill you to avenge Weiwei. This was a police station and he dared to fight right under the noses of the police. Officer Chun had a headache and immediately stopped him. But Li Yunqi's promise shocked everyone. If she was really murdered, I will definitely accompany her in death. So resolute. My mouth was agape. Before I could react, he said coldly, but she won't die. Even if she dies, it will be because she couldn't bear the guilt and committed suicide. It's absolutely impossible that she was murdered. Was it my imagination? His last sentence trembled slightly. Fu Jingrui was being held back by Officer Chan. His face looked like he wanted to eat someone. What guilt? What crime did Weiwei commit? Her biggest crime was falling in love with a scum like you. If it were any other time, Li Yunqi wouldn't have let it go if someone cursed him like that. But at this moment he just kept a cold face and didn't say a word. He seemed distracted. He didn't even bother with Fu Jingrui and turned to leave. I felt he was acting strange. I shouldn't have followed him anymore, haven't I been abused enough? But I got carried away and followed him to Bai Siren's house as if possessed. Yunqi, I have good news for you. Bai Siren excitedly greeted him and wrapped her arms around his neck. But he interrupted her in a deep voice. The suicide note. Was it really written by Shi Weiwei? Both Bai Siren and I were shocked. Seeing the doubtful glint in his eyes, I finally understood what he was afraid of earlier. He was afraid that those eyes were really mine, proving that I had been murdered, and since Bai Siren had given him the diary, then there was naturally something fishy about the suicide note. He didn't say it in front of Officer Chan and the others because he couldn't show his hand before the truth was found. He wanted to protect Bai Siren. I leaned against the wall, watching them, my body ice cold. See, I told you I was looking for abuse. Well, the more I'm abused, the more I hate him, and then there will be no more love. Bai Siren quickly recovered and explained urgently. I really miss Weiwei that day, so I went to her house to look around and found this diary in her bedroom. I was also shocked when I saw the suicide note. I didn't even read it carefully and gave it to you. She bit her lip, not deliberately but still pitifully. As for the suicide note, it should have been written by her, because the handwriting is the same. I clenched my fists, staring at her. I had to admit, this woman was such a good actress. I was so badly deceived by her in the past. Li Yunqi's heart softened as expected. He put his arm around her waist and pulled her into his embrace, whispering, I was just asking, don't overthink it. By the way, you said you had good news. Bai Siren immediately relaxed, her face glowing. Yunqi, I'm pregnant. You're going to be a father. Both Li Yunqi and I were shocked. What did you say? Li Yunqi stared at her blankly, his expression very strange. But Bai Siren was probably too excited to notice. She happily repeated. I said, Yunqi, you're going to be a father. Yunqi continued to stare at her, his eyes becoming darker and deeper, his emotions unreadable. This time Siren finally noticed, and the smile on her face gradually disappeared. She asked doubtfully, what's wrong? Yunqi, we're having a baby, aren't you happy? Yunqi seemed to snap out of it, suddenly coming to his senses. He tapped her forehead and said softly, how could I not be happy? You're overthinking it. Yes, how could he not be happy? He and the woman he loved deeply had the crystallization of their love. I suddenly had a strange thought, if I hadn't died and told him I was pregnant, would he have been happy too? No. I immediately shook my head. My face was pale, my eyes empty. I hugged myself tightly, curling up so as not to tremble. Before long, Yunqi embraced Siren, and the two walked into the bedroom. Although my heart was bleeding, my mind ridiculously recalled another thing. The bed they were now making love on was bought by me for Siren. This house was also rented by me for her, with 10 years of rent already paid.